Every story begins with a spark. A single page, a single voice, a single chapter. Welcome to Chapter 1, where our authors take you on the journey in their own words. Settle in, listen closely. This is where the adventure begins.
Albert hadn't even intended to be in Quill Point, Illinois, when everything started. He had planned to leave the day prior. The only reason he was still in town was that his clunker of a car had stopped working. Not that he hated Quill Point, just that it was boring. The only thing to do after 9 o'clock was to go to the inexplicably still surviving roller rink. It was the kind of small town made for retirees, not someone in their mid-20s. He was pretty sure that growing up here was the whole reason he'd felt compelled to leave for the bustle of California. He caught up with his parents as best he could, but there wasn't that much to catch up on. They'd never met his girlfriend before the breakup. Neither of his parents knew enough about software and coding to truly get what he did at work. It was nothing but dead-end conversations. So, mid-afternoon, on a warm Thursday, he found himself walking to the cluster of restaurants near the highway access ramp. A freestanding coffee shop seemed the most interesting. It had been a long time since he'd gone to anything other than a chain. His apartment was next to quite a few franchises, and they all knew his orders. As he walked across the blacktop, the wind changed. A breeze turned to a cold burst. Albert's blazer whipped around him. He turned to look, frowning. A storm cloud was rolling in from the eastern horizon. It wasn't like anything he'd heard of in Quill Point before. Illinois had tornado season, but this looked like a tropical storm. It was far away, though. No raindrops. No thunder. The only thing that changed was the temperature. The clouds heralded a drop of almost 10 degrees. It went from summer warmth to a fall chill. With every step, the coffee shop seemed more appealing. Albert pulled the blazer around himself and walked faster. He kept looking at the clouds, expecting them to burst with lightning at any moment. Bells chimed when he opened the door to the Quill Point Cafe. The barista looked up as he entered and didn't hide her befuddled look. Albert had been getting a lot of those since he'd been in Quill Point. He was an unfamiliar face in a routine that was older than him. "Hey there." The barista was short and small, with mildly tanned white skin, not quite gray hair, and seemed maybe in her early 60s. "Haven't seen you before." "I'm Georgina's kid," Albert replied automatically. The woman's face lit up. "Oh, well, of course you are," she said with a faint Chicagoan accent. "You look so much like her. You even have your mother's black hair, now don't you?" "Yeah, and my father's gray eyes," Albert said. "Such a small world. I think I saw you once or twice as a toddler." She smiled with her eyes as much as her mouth. "Well, my name's Cynthia. What can I get for you?" "Something warm," Albert said. Cold spell just came in. Cynthia pursed her lips slightly. "That's so. That's weird. Well, the menu's up there. Just tell me what you'd like." Albert looked. It was drawn in dark blue chalk on a chalkboard suspended above the counter. The fare was the usual: espresso, latte, some sugary stuff, except for a mug of ink, which didn't even have a list of ingredients. "Ah, I see my special concoction has caught your eye." "Yeah, it has," Albert said. "What is it exactly?" "Oh, it's something for the busy people. I know a lawyer who swears by it. It was my wife's concoction." "It's my wife's concoction. She's never been much of a morning person." Albert looked over the name again, as though it would reveal its secrets. He was no slouch when it came to caffeine. Coming out of college, he'd chugged enough energy drinks to rot his insides. "What's in it?" he asked. Cynthia smiled mischievously. "Well, the better question is, what's not in it? Would you like a free cup? Gotta get you hooked on the stuff, after all." Albert made a small sound in the back of his throat. I still think I want to know what I'm drinking." "Well, I can't tell you everything, but it's mostly ristretto and dark chocolate syrup. I recommend you sip it slowly, unless you want to live on the moon the next time you jump. Sure, I'll try it. Albert let out a little breath. Sure, may as well. I have a lot more walking to do today. That a fact, Cynthia said. When she took out a bag of beans from behind the counter and loaded it into the machine, Albert wondered if his order was a good idea. I've been looking around the town, seeing how the place is. A soft bell sounded behind him. Albert turned to see an older man stepping into the store. He had dark brown skin, a pale beard dominating most of his lower jaw, and noticeable laugh lines. He used a ruler and was also holding a leash. His dog strained against it, sniffing at Albert's leg. Albert wasn't great at identifying breeds of dogs, but it was small, fluffy, and blonde, with a tiny pink tongue lapping at the air. Some weather out there, the man said. Hey there, Henry. How have you and Sanvi been? Cynthia called from behind the counter. She'd started the espresso machine, filling three small metal cups with ristretto. Somehow, some way, that wife of mine gets more gorgeous every year, so I can't complain. I came by to get the household some beans for the morning. We're getting low. I thought I'd get some before dark. I guess I was psychic with my timing. Those clouds look ready for rain. Albert frowned at that. The dog still followed him as he walked to the cafe's closest window. His eyes went wide. The sky had gotten wilder. The clouds were much closer. Colors were leaking along their edges. Colors were leaking along their edge. Ribbons of orange and red spread from them like streamers. Something about it made his pulse quicken. It reminded him of a poisonous frog. Is that normal here? Albert asked. Not anything I've seen, Henry replied. Henry's dog made a small whine and backed away from the window. The noise made the hairs on Albert's neck stand up straight. Cynthia walked over to stand next to him. She took one look and whistled. That's one heck of a thing. As if it could hear her, the clouds finally released a deep purple lightning bolt. It was massive, forking into several stabbing points. No thunder came yet, but it made Albert blink. The afterimage stayed in his vision for several seconds. I think maybe I need to get home. Albert's voice was quieter than he expected. His legs felt weak. Didn't you say you were walking? Cynthia asked. His stomach dropped. Yeah, I did. Cynthia frowned slightly. Hey, Henry, mind giving this boy a ride to his parents? That depends, Henry said, walking over. Who is this mystery person? This here is Georgina and Terry's kid, Albert. He's here for some reason. Hasn't told me yet. Hi, Albert said, tearing his eyes away from the storm cloud. It was widening now, spreading the length of his peripheral vision. I'm just visiting. A faint rumbling of thunder came from seemingly everywhere at once. The dog whimpered again, and Cynthia dropped to hold him. Henry nodded to her before looking Albert over. Hello, Albert. I've known your parents for a few years now. They've always been good people. I can give you a ride if you don't mind me getting what I came for first. The usual, I assume, Cynthia said, still patting the dog on the head. When the dog stopped visibly tensing, she stood up and returned to the counter. If you have it, Henry said, it's the best thing I've had. I appreciate the flattery, she said, but I've had it as fresh as possible, the day after it was roasted, and you can't even imagine. I bet. Henry turned back to Albert. Are you okay with waiting? Albert nodded, even if some part of him wanted to run, as fast as he could, for the nearest house. He felt somehow cornered. Another rumble off in the distance made his shoulder twitch. Your drink's ready, hon. Your drink's ready, hon, Cynthia said, though you're starting to look like you don't need any more energy. Sorry, Albert said. I'm not sure what came over me. There. Sorry, Albert said. I'm not sure what came over me there. I'm not usually bothered by storms. It does look really nasty, Cynthia said. Albert nodded in agreement and picked up the ceramic mug set out on the counter. It was heavy and full of a thick black liquid that slightly stained the edge of the cup. After a second of trepidation, he took a sip. He was too nervous to enjoy it, but it had the same quality as wine with its oddly unfolding flavors. It was also quite strong and made his head buzz. Oh, that stuff will kill you, Henry joked. I had one 10 years ago, and I think it's still making it hard for me to sleep. Now Now don't go scaring off my customers, Cynthia said. I like it, Albert muttered, glancing out the window. Cynthia handed a dark gray bag to Henry. He took it with a smile and a nod. After paying, he turned back to Albert. So then, let's get you home. Will you be okay with me stopping by and saying hello to your folks? Or is there a family dinner planned I'd be interrupting? You can do that. It's fine. I want to not be here when whatever that is hits. You can do that. It's fine. I want to not be here when whatever this is hits. Henry looked out the window. For a moment, a bright purple light washed over his face. A flash of concern came and went, but he still smiled at Albert. All right, my car's just over there. He waved to Cynthia as he turned to leave, letting in the cold as he opened the door. Thanks for the coffee. Tell your wife we should play some cards again sometime. She'll win, you know, Cynthia replied. Well, naturally, but it's still fun. Albert took one more sip of his coffee and put the mug back on the counter. Sorry I couldn't finish it. It was good. I liked it. Oh, don't worry about it. But come back before you go back to your fancy town, okay? It's always nice seeing the new generation become adults. Thanks. I will, Albert said. Don't worry too much about the weather, Cynthia said. Don't worry too much about the weather, Cynthia said. We get some strange days. It once rained for almost a week, and you should have seen the snow in 1967. Okay, thanks, Albert said. You be safe, too. Cynthia nodded. I will be. Worst comes to worst, I'll throw some tarp over the windows and go to the bigger shops. They can take a few hits. Okay, good, Albert said. When he turned, Henry was finishing getting himself his roller and his dog into his car. He waved from the front seat. The car was a sturdy thing, old but well built. Albert knew little about cars, but it had large headlights and a flat front. The wind whipped at him yet again during the brief trip to the car. He opened the passenger door, and within seconds of sitting down, the dog leaped over and sniffed at his chest. Henry laughed. That's Buddy. Sorry about him. He's usually a little more well-behaved. It's okay. I like dogs, Albert replied. He adjusted so Buddy could better sit on his lap. Buddy seemed dead set on licking Albert's palms, no matter where he put his hands. He forgot about the storm outside for a second, but another rumble made him look out the window. Any other thought left him. The clouds in the sky were like nothing he'd ever imagined. The large gray storm clouds were in every direction. They made a ring of the horizon, surrounding the town. The red and orange ribbons leaked out even further. That's a wild thing, Henry muttered, then started the car. This is impossible, Albert said. Something tightened in the pit of his stomach. He took out his phone and pointed the camera at it. Only after he took a picture did he notice that his hand was shaking. You might want to send that to the weather station, Henry said quietly. He sounded nervous now. They'd probably love some on-the-ground footage. Buddy softly growled on Albert's lap. The sound started a spark of panic that Albert had to swallow back down. The car felt too small, and the sky was far too big. Sure, what's the number? Henry told him as they exited the parking lot. It took only a few minutes to get back to his parents' place, and he spent nearly all of it trying to input the number. The shaking in his hand and the thrumming in his chest made it hard to type. He kept starting over when he got a number wrong. He got it about 2 blocks from his house. His phone immediately told him he didn't have service. He tried again. It didn't work. Is there a cell phone tower nearby? Albert asked. Yeah, the town didn't like it, but we have one about a mile from here. Ah, okay, Albert said. The connection's not good. This is going to be a big storm, Henry said. I think there might be a tornado coming or something. The sky had become almost entirely that orange and red color. Only the faintest hints of blue remained, and even the sunlight streaming down seemed altered. Henry's hand tightened on the steering wheel. I'll have to take a rain check on seeing your folks, Albert. I think I want to go home. I'll have to take a rain check on seeing your folks, Albert. I think I want to get home. That's fine, Albert said. Just pull over here. I can walk the last bit. Henry nodded slowly. There was barely any cars on the road, so he quickly pulled off to the side. He gave Albert a strained smile. Stay safe, okay? Thanks. Albert eased Buddy off of him and opened the car door. Thanks for the ride. Welcome, Henry said, staring out the driver's side window. Welcome, Henry said, staring out the driver's side window. As soon as Albert closed the car door, Henry peeled away. His car picked up speed as he rounded the corner. Albert looked up again as it happened. A purple bolt segmented overhead, and a frigid wind shot around him. The sky was bloated with orange. It looked as if he could stretch to his tiptoes, reach out, and come back with stained hands. Something deep in Albert's chest vibrated. It kept shuddering. He touched his chest. His heart rate had never been this fast before. He didn't stop to think. Albert ran for his parents' place. Another rumble vibrated the air. It made his stomach shudder. He panted, pushing his feet to carry him a little more. There was a flash so bright, Albert had to blink it away. The resulting thunderclap came less than a second later. It slapped the air above his head. It set off multiple car alarms. Albert's parents' house came into view, and he picked up more speed. In the warped light, the squat building looked different. Hedges that sat below the windows shivered. The wind chimes hanging from the eaves spun and jumped and screeched. Another roll of thunder happened, but didn't stop booming. It seemed to move down into the earth, digging its fingers at the very earth. Another roll of thunder happened, but didn't stop booming. It seemed to move down into the ground, digging its fingers at the very earth. Albert stumbled. He felt like he was on uneven ground. He stopped in his tracks, and the ground was still moving. He was still shaking. Albert had felt earthquakes in California. This was something else. The ground shifted like the tide. Everything he could see, everything he could feel, was atop a striding horse, bucking him up and down. The sky burst with another lightning strike. It also didn't stop. Bolts crackled and split the air. The thunder somehow got even louder. Albert cupped his hands over his ears and cowered. He was possibly shouting, possibly crying. He couldn't hear himself. In the rolling chaos, he wasn't even sure he could locate his own body. It shivered, but it was so small compared to the yawning void of wind. Albert stumbled again, then fell hard. The world seemed to split, break, and unravel. The ground rose to smash into his side. A scream burst out from his lips. He was sure he was crying now. He was not sure of anything else. The moments that followed seemed endless. Albert lost track of time as he lay there, shirking away from the buffeting cold, roaring thunder, and angry earth below. His only want was for it to stop. When it finally did, when the fury of the elements lessened and then ceased, he didn't notice at first. He had fled to some part of himself, some deep part of his mind, and had grown numb. It took moments of mounting soreness, of awareness of the dirt coating his arms, to find himself again. He flexed his fingers, and they hurt from how hard he tightened them into fists. He didn't want to open his eyes. The devastation around him was a sight he wasn't sure he could handle. But then he heard his mother's panicked voice, and his mind slammed fully back into the world. His eyes shot open. Everything was foggy and full of floaters. Albert pushed himself into a sitting position. He wasn't in the center of a singed crater, but the damage was everywhere. Trees toppled. The pavement had deep cracks in it. Mailboxes lay unearthed in the road. It was oddly silent, though. The car alarms had stopped. With all Albert's willpower, he looked up again. The sky was pure red and orange, the blue gone. The storm clouds encircled the sky, gray and solid. They didn't shoot out any more lightning, but they hadn't gotten any smaller. Albert's mom cried out again. With what little energy he had left, Albert stumbled to stand. With pain from every step, he walked as quickly as he could to his parents' front door.
The first chapter has been read, but the story has only just begun. Join us again for more voices, more worlds, more Chapter 1.